Welcome to the Sportz Phenz Show. The show where, just like you, we can't get enough sports.
The 47-year wait is over! And the Nuggets win it! Wilson throwing, it's up for grabs, and he's caught for the touchdown! And the Denver Broncos have taken Super Bowl 50. And the Avalanche are 2022 Stanley Cup champions! And a shot into the back of the net for Diego Rubio!
Now here's your hosts, Arthur Knight.
It's still saying waiting for Sportz Phenz, my guy. Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to the Sportz Phenz Show. I am Arthur Knight. I now see us live. Welcome to the Sportz Phenz Show. I am Arthur Knight. Coming to you live from 4300 West Alameda Sohai Cafe here in Denver, Colorado. Come on by, get you some tacos, get you some brisket. Man, it's Sohai Cafe barbecue and taqueria. You're not going to be disappointed, man. I just had a breakfast burrito. Now I've tried, several different items on the menu. I just had a breakfast burrito, man. That green chili was on point. Come on by 4300 West Alameda or call ahead 303-807-0151 303-807-0151. Tell Vinny the Sportz Phenz sent you, get your 10% discount. We are also being brought to you live by iEnvy Vision. iEnvy Vision is devoted to offering affordable and fashionable eyewear. iEnvy is your eye care advocates. Their goal is to provide all with the education and awareness needed to make an informed decision about your vision and health. They are located off of Alameda and Buckley in Aurora, Colorado, but you can call today 720-762-4290 or book online at ienvyvision.com. iEnvy Vision, we see you. All right, so Broncos last week lose.
I'm leaving. I'll talk to you.
They got to. All right, Vinny, just gonna leave me out here on this island by myself. That's cool. That's cool.
I was gonna say something, and then you brought up that.
Oh, what were you gonna say?
Also check out Sohai Cafe and the new Westward online.
Oh, yes. Oh, my bad. They were featured in the Westward, man. Peep that out. But also come by 4300, man. They're 4300 West Alameda. But they were featured in Westward. Was it last week or is it this week?
Friday.
Okay, so that'll be this week from Friday to Friday, I think is how they do it. So peep them out. In the Westward, Sohai Cafe, Taqueria, and Barbecue, or Barbecue and Taqueria. Either way, you're going to get some good food. Okay, so.
We had it.
Go ahead.
I don't know if you saw the reels, but, again, we got to give props to all the refs out there calling our games.
Well, that leads me to ask the question, did the Broncos lose on a faulty call? Or was it poor game management or a poor game plan at the end of the game by the Denver Broncos coaching staff?
Little A, little B.
I actually want to say it's you don't want to leave it. Any coach or any player that's ever played the game will tell you, played any game, doesn't matter what sport it is, you don't want to leave it up to the refs. Like in UFC, you don't want to leave it up to the cards to win a match. In boxing, you don't want to do the same. You want to knock them out. You want to submit them. In football, you want to beat them by enough points to where if they kick a field goal at the end, it's fealty. It's nothing. It's futile, I should say. It's not even a big deal. This was poor planning, more poor planning to me than it was on the faulty call. And apparently, it was a good call. I've seen it a couple of times. I'm not sure. I've got to get a little more well-versed on what the actual rule is, because it didn't seem to me like it would be a penalty. But even with that said, for them to call it back after or give a 15-yard penalty and give him a 45-yard field goal instead of a 60-yard field goal, and this kid hasn't missed a field goal within that range since he's been in the NFL, that kind of, it's a faulty call. But had the Broncos not, number one, missed a field goal themselves in the third quarter or the beginning of the fourth quarter. So let's not forget that, Broncos country. We can't just sit there and blame the referees every single time. My first homer response, I'll admit it. As soon as the game was over, I was like, oh, man, this is BS, da-da-da-da-da, that's a faulty call, da-da-da, But as the week progresses, you start to calm down, you watch the video, and it's like, okay, I see what they did there. Was that a penalty? Should that be a penalty? That's here nor there, really, at this point. It cost them the game. But poor game management and planning is what cost them the game, ultimately, in my humble opinion. Like I said, so the first miss was, the Broncos field goal kicker missing a field goal. Will Lutz missed a field goal that would have forced Indianapolis to have to score a touchdown, which against this defense, even though Indianapolis was moving the ball up and down the field, Danny Dimes did have 316 yards, 316 yards passing, and I said it on the show last week, I didn't think he was going to be able to do that against this defense, and he threw that at PS2. A lot of that was at PS2. So that kind of threw me off a little bit, but, I'm not going down that rabbit hole right this second, but the fact of the matter is that missing that field goal making that field goal would have forced them, the Colts, a younger team, or maybe not even a younger team, but a team that hasn't been playing together for a long time. Like, this is Daniel Jones' first year as a Colt. Jonathan Taylor's been a Colt for a minute, but like Tyler Warren, all of these guys are relatively new to the team, right? So the Denver Broncos, if they make that field goal, if Lutz makes that field goal, Danny Dimes has to march down the field and actually score a touchdown. And they couldn't even do that. Like the Denver Broncos in the second half, the Denver Broncos D only allowed 9 points, and they were all field goals, obviously. Every single one of them was field goals, including the game winner. So if the Broncos make that field goal, they win that game. Because the Broncos defense was bend, not break. They were going to have to do a Hail Mary pass instead of a 60-yard field goal in order to win that game, which is a much lower percentage chance. Like, that kid had enough distance on that kick. He just missed it wide right? He just missed it. It wasn't that he didn't have enough leg on it. He could have made that. He just, shanked it to the right because he was putting too much leg into it. But, boy, he had at least a good another 10 yards of leg in that kick. He kicks that straight and true. That's a 60-yard game winner, and game is over, right? But he doesn't. But the Broncos should have never been in that position, in my humble opinion. And that's where the coaching comes into play. Coaching, I want to give the Broncos head coach all the credit in the world for turning this franchise around, taking them to the playoffs for the first time in 7-8 years. I don't want to take away, any of his flowers and the things he's done. He's changed the culture. I like the culture. But a bit of the arrogance is starting to stink a little bit. It's starting to stink a little bit because you had us all thinking that this offense was going to be firing on all cylinders. And hey, they did better this week. They did better last week, I should say. They did better. It was much better. I mean, Bo still threw an interception, but he also threw 3 touchdowns on 22 of 30. So they lowered the pitch count, for lack of the pass count for Bo Nix, but they didn't up the amount of running plays that J.K. Dobbins, and I get it, R.J. Harvey was not on his best game that day. I think that the Colts defense might have been a little too quick for him. Or I don't know. I just know that the boy ran 5 rushes for 8 yards. And that's only like a 1.6 average. Like, that's not going to cut it. But J.K. Dobbins had a good game, touchdown, had a 23-yard rushing rush, 5.4 average, 76 yards on 14 carries. Give the man more carries. The reason why Indianapolis beat you is because they beat your defense into submission. Like, they had PS2 and Moss running crossing routes on man-to-man, had your linebackers doing crossing routes man-to-man, had the whole defense doing all these crossing and running from sideline to sideline, and wore them out at the end, but they still didn't break. The defense still held. They held. If Lutz makes that field goal, they Broncos win this game, man. I don't know how else to point it out. But I'll keep pointing out points where the Broncos coaching staff missed. This is why the Denver Broncos lost. Daniel Jones was 23 for 34, 316 yards and a tutty. That's why. Jonathan Taylor, 25 carries, 165 yards, 6.5 average. God, Denver D, VJ, man, you got to do something about that middle. You got to do something about that middle, man. That A gap and B gap is just getting eaten alive. And guys are carrying 6-7 yards on this defense, and it's not like Stranad and all of them aren't trying. It's not for a lack of effort. It might be scheme, homie. I don't know, but we got to fix that, VJ. We got to fix that, man, because 25 carries for 165 yards. I get it. Jonathan Taylor is a premium back. He could get that on most defenses, but y'all sold us. All this coaches and Coach Payton saying, Bo was going to be a top 4 quarterback. And I don't know if he meant this year or if he meant in years to come, because he didn't really specify. But you had us sold, man. You had us sold that this offense was going to be firing on all cylinders, scoring 25, 30 points a game. You had us sold that this defense was a smother yo offense like a burrito defense. You had us sold. And I'm not saying that it's still not going to happen. It's week 3. I get it. But to lose by 1 point on the road when you pretty much did control the whole game, I don't think that's personnel, brother. That's coaching. That's coaching. All right, real quick. Let me get to the text line here. We got Mr. Perez. Is that a throwback Buccaneers? No, sir. This is Broncos. I don't wear Buccaneers, son. Why would I wear a Denver hat with a Buccaneers jersey, bro? Come on, man. Yeah, lots of missteps. Okay. Yeah, lots of missteps in the second half. Not running the ball consistently. Run plays that haven't worked at all. It's like, come on, man. We need to come up with some I don't know. There's just not any continuity to this offense. I don't want to say that I'm an expert or anything like that. I'm just a fan, but I've been watching football for a long time and, played football as a youth. I'd like to say I have a mind for it, especially as a fan. I'm just a fan of the game, but I'm also a student of the game. And it looks like to me, like most offenses, when the Colts, for instance, you could tell what type of offense they are. They're a run you sideline to sideline, fast-paced offense. They're going to run the ball. They do a lot of zone blocking schemes, open up wide gaps for their great Jonathan Taylor to run through. And then they make passes that are, 20 yards plus down the field, especially off of their play action their play action plays. So it's like the identity of that team now that we've watched them play. The Denver Broncos, it seems like the run plays don't fit the type of pass plays that they're running. Like not even the same concept, it feels like. It's like they're all over the place. And am I crazy? Broncos country? Like, am I crazy? Or, does anybody else see that? Or am I just, maybe I'm just reading into things too much. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't see why the running game doesn't match the passing game. And maybe I'm just crazy. Maybe I'm just not seeing it. Maybe they are run plays that set up the pass play, but I just don't see it. I don't see it. Not to mention most of these play actions that they run, you can't run play action off of actions that you haven't taken. How do you run a play action off of a play that they've never seen you run the actual run play? That keeps the defensive end or maybe even the outside linebacker setting the edge on the weak side if you're going, depending on which way you're bootlegging or which way your action is going. They're going to stay home. They're going to watch the quarterback and stay home, and they're going to keep Bo Nix under duress, which is what we saw on week 1 and week 2. It was nothing different. It seems like now, I'm not trying to say that Coach Payton is not the great man and the great guru that he is, because he is. I love the fact that he's our coach. I love the fact that he's changed the culture. I love the fact that he's turned this team around in a short time. I mean, he took over the team maybe 3 years ago, right? 3 years, and within the 3rd year, the Broncos are in the playoffs. So I can't take anything away from him, but it's like, my brother, like, you got to still progress. You got to progress. Making the playoffs last year is not the end all. Not the end all. Making the playoffs just once is not going to cut it, sir. I don't know how the fans are in New Orleans. I mean, I guess, they are used to mediocrity and their team not being great except for that short stint that you were there. But Denver country or Broncos country, man, we are not used to this. We are not used to this at all. We're used to small stints, and we get as savvy Bronco fans, we get that during the time that, the interim of the death of Mr. Bolin and the Walton Penner group that purchased the team, there was a bit of, mediocrity. Like it was meh, or 6-7, as my daughters say. It was not good. The product was not good. It was not the company as a whole, the Broncos as an organization was not being run properly. And I'm not trying to take shots at John Elway or anybody who was running the team during that time, but facts are facts, man. Like, they couldn't even make a playoff. They couldn't have a winning season. They were drafting terribly, quarterback after quarterback after quarterback. It was terrible. It was terrible to watch. It was a horrible product. And they rode off of the coattails of getting Manning and having his last hurrah, his last ride off into the sunset as the sheriff. John Elway and that regime that was overseeing basically as stewards to the Denver Broncos organization, they almost ran it into the ground, man. And this, I got to give kudos to the Penner Walton group. They came in and changed it up. And I'm all for it. They got this new stadium site that they're going to build, and they're keeping it in Denver as opposed to moving it to like Lone Tree or out in Aurora or something to that effect. They're keeping it in Denver. They're keeping it in a historic district. It's actually going to be pretty cool. The only thing that sucks is, if you don't make enough money, you're not going to be able to go to games because it's going to be privately built. and they are going to want to get every dime back that they invested into this team. And I don't blame them for that, but that's going to price out a lot of Broncos fans. It's going to open up doors for new, more wealthier Broncos fans, and that is what it is. That's the nature of the beast. I get it. But I still like the direction they're going in. I do, as a franchise. I like the direction. I like what Coach Payton is doing. But we can't sit back and just bite our tongue. You know, Mark always likes to call me a homer. And I am. Don't get me wrong. I am. I'm a homer through and through. I love all of my teams, and sometimes lopsidedly. But I can also be very objective and realize that when I'm looking at the product I'm looking at is not done. There's potential. We can see it. It's not like the Broncos didn't score 28 points last week against a very good defense. It's just that there's still more to be seen, especially from a defense that we were told would stifle the other offense no matter who was on the other side, like pick your poison. And Indianapolis was like, well, we could throw it all over the yard. And this offense was touted as an offense that was, not necessarily going to be unstoppable, but you were going to have to be a stout defense in order to stop them. And the Titans aren't that great, and they, kind of stopped them. Even though the Broncos won that game, that wasn't the Broncos went in there and they went into that game and lit the field on fire. They didn't. They definitively didn't go into the Colts stadium and to Lucas Oil and do, they lit up the scoreboard for a little bit, but they didn't score anything in the fourth quarter as far as I can tell. Let me take a look again, because I do not believe that the Denver Broncos scored a touchdown or even a field goal in the third or fourth quarter. Okay, no, excuse me. I stand corrected. J.K. Dobbins scored his 5-yard touchdown run in the third quarter, at the beginning of the third quarter at 11:17 on a 2nd and 1. He ran it in for 5 yards to put him up 28-20. And that right there is when I feel like the Denver Broncos coaching staff lost the game for them. That's when I think the Denver Broncos lost the game for them, the coaching staff. Because they were up 8 points. Right there. They were up 8 points. And instead of running the ball and running out the clock on Daniel Jones and not giving him as many opportunities to score 9 points, maybe only give him enough opportunity to score 6 points. That's not enough. They scored 9 straight points on field goals to beat the Broncos because the Broncos couldn't put the ball into the red zone, let alone into the end zone. But I digress, man. I don't know. Y'all tell me, did the Broncos lose on a faulty call, or was it a poor game plan? I just gave you all the reasons why it could have been a faulty game plan at the end of the game and not the best shining moment for our Denver Broncos coaching staff. But do we still want to just blame it on a call? One call at the end of a game? A bad call. I'm not going to disagree. It's a bad call. It's a bad call. In any other sport, especially basketball or hockey or something, the ref would swallow their whistle on that for the most part. But you tell me. Oh, okay, Mark, you say both. And okay. I mean, I could take that. It's both. But had the Broncos taken care of business in the third and fourth quarter, especially offensively, if they put up even 3 more points, they win this game. They're not even in that faulty call situation. So that's why I say it's more of a poor game plan than I say it's a faulty call. But, hey, to each their own. So now that I've got my 24-minute rant out of the way about last week, the Broncos, man, they've been bitten by the injury bug already this year, man. There was a whole bunch of players that were out from practice this week, or are full go now, like Nate Atkins, Nick Bonito, Hufanga, Alex Singleton, and Justin Stranad. The two that are the most, or the three I should say, that are the most scary and glaring were Nick Bonito, Alex Singleton, and Justin Stranad. Man, that's even though they're full goes, are they 100%? I guess that'll remain to be seen. But here's the big issue. So the Broncos made a lot of big splashes this offseason, right? They went and got a whole bunch of names, Hufanga being one of them, Greenlaw being another, Ingram being another, right? They also signed a whole bunch of guys that were already here, right? In Bonito and Sutton and Allen. Okay? Bonito, Sutton, and Allen have actually done their job for the most part. I mean, Sutton did disappear last week. I forgot to mention that in that game, that Sutton kind of disappeared. And I don't know if it was because of the emergence of Franklin, but they could have utilized that and opened up a little bit more. I mean, the Colts were daring them to throw it to other receivers, and they did, but nothing really materialized from it. Yeah, I agree, Mark. Mark says Stranad is holding his own but missing Greenlaw bad. Facts. Mad facts. And Singleton is, holding his own too, but the man has a club on one of his hands, so he can't really grab and, do what he can't shake blockers and do stuff that he normally would do. Yeah, but back to my point. So for the most part, the Broncos have gotten dividends from the three guys that they re-signed from a year ago. Okay, the guys that they're extending. Hufanga has played great. He has played great. Played really good against the Colts. Instrumental in the reason why the Broncos had an opportunity to win that game. But now he has a chest injury. I don't know what that means. Did he break a rib? What did he do? Did he fracture a collarbone? Did he, pull a muscle on his, I don't know. What happened? What does chest mean? But he's a full go today. We'll see how long he plays. But the two that are most glaring are Evan Ingram and Dre Greenlaw, and especially Dre Greenlaw hasn't materialized in any way, shape, or form. We haven't even seen this man put on a Broncos uniform. Now I know he's on that 4-week IR, so we're not going to see him until after next week. But he doesn't seem to be practicing. He doesn't really seem to be practicing either. And he has this quad injury, and that's what I'm wondering about. Your quad's down here, but I'm just worried that the Broncos invested in a couple of guys that they shouldn't have, and the league kind of told them, and they were big ifs. Everybody, we knew that they were big ifs, especially Evan Ingram. That guy had some injury history, and now we're dealing with that history. But even when he was in the game, it didn't seem like he was going to be that guy. He wasn't going to be the joker that the Denver Broncos sorely need to win in this division. The Denver Broncos do need that joker. They need somebody. They need that Swiss Army knife on their offense, and I still don't think they have it. J.K. Dobbins is showing his weight. He's pulling his weight for sure. I'd like to see him get 20 carries today. I'd like to see J.K. Dobbins get 20 carries, then give another 5 to 7 carries to the Rook. Maybe, 1 to 2 carries to Bidet, or just have him in for a release valve for Bo Nix if he's taking a blitz on a third down or something to that effect. But I'd like to see J.K. Dobbins take a full load of 20 carries this game, and Bo Nix stay on par with the 30 to 35 that he did last week. That would be perfect and ideal. That would mean that the Denver Broncos wide receiver room needs to step up. Franklin seems like he has taken a leap. He has taken a huge leap. He had a great game last week. Let's see if he can carry that into this week, because they're going to need it against that Chargers defense. Sutton needs to come out of hiding. Make sure that, even if he's being double teamed, he's got to show that he's that number one wide receiver, and not just for Denver or in Denver because he's a homegrown talent. He's got to actually show the league and show the world that he deserves to be the number one wide receiver, and why they re-signed him. Because it didn't seem like he was the blanket, he wasn't the pacifier for Bo Nix at all against the Colts, man. And that was pretty Yeah, Mark, that is a crazy thing. Mark is saying in the chat, can we talk about how many missed field goals there have been this year? That is kind of crazy that there's been a lot of missed field goals. But I think that's been a little bit by design, especially when it comes to the extra point. That's why they moved it back. But it is a bit weird. I would speak upon it, Mark, but I really don't know why that's an epidemic. I mean, it is. I can't say that it's not. It is weird, but maybe when we get you back on the show, we can dig into it a little bit. Yeah. I agree. Extra points and field goals. It's a bit odd. I think Koo from the Atlanta Falcons was released today because he was missing a lot of field goals. And that kid was not too bad just a couple of years ago, man. He's been on that team for a good minute. So it is a bit weird. Maybe next week we'll get into that a little bit deeper when I can do a little bit of research and put some numbers behind whether or not it's a true epidemic, or are we just noticing it more? Maybe, I don't know. But what I did notice is that the Chargers have a lot of notable injuries as well. So the Chargers don't have, as far as I know, I don't know their their depth chart completely, but Will Disley, their starting tight end, is out. One of their starting corners, Cam Hart, is questionable. One of their starting linebackers, Henley, is questionable. And one of their starting defensive back, Elijah Molden, is out. So that gives the Broncos a window of opportunity. It kind of evens out because I kind of think that this Los Angeles Chargers team, especially offensively, man, after watching them go 2-0 now, watching them to go 2-0 now and beat Kansas City. They beat some top teams. They beat some top teams to get to 2-0 to where they're at now. And this is a big game for both teams, for both the Denver Broncos and the Los Angeles Chargers. And I'll tell you why. Most of us know that this is big implications of the AFC West with the Kansas City Chiefs starting 0-2 and are now basically either one full game or two full games behind everybody else. That opens the door. Whoever wins this game is in control of the AFC West. Now, here's why. The Denver Broncos, this is their first and only divisional game in this first half of the season. Okay? So if they win this game, they don't have to worry about the Kansas City Chiefs, the Raiders, or the Chargers until the end of the season again. For the Chargers, this is their third AFC West game in 3 weeks. I believe that they played the Raiders, the Chiefs, and now the Broncos in their first 3 weeks, and they're 2-0. But if they lose to the Broncos today, they will be 2-1. The Broncos will be 1-1. Or no. Wait. I don't think the Broncos have played any of our division. Yeah, because they haven't played any division foes yet. So the Broncos will be 1-0 if they win, or 0-1. No huge big deal, but if they're 1-0 leaving this game, and they're both tied at 2-1 overall, because of the head-to-head, the Broncos are number 1 in the division. That's the implications of this game today, this afternoon, in about 30 minutes or so, 25, 30 minutes. That's the implications of this game. If the Denver Broncos can pull this out, they will be the number 1 team in the AFC West. And then they won't have to play any of their divisional rivals until week 7 or something to that effect. It's definitely not until after like their bye week and whatnot. And then it's like the gauntlet, similar to what Los Angeles is going through right now. The Broncos will be going through that around or after the break, their week off break, right? Their bye week. So this is a big game. This is a big game for both teams. If Los Angeles wins, they're 3-0 in the division. The worst that could happen to them is they go 1-1 the rest of the way. They're still in control of the division, though. They'll be 3-0 overall and 3-0 in the division. They could write their own ticket at that point. So the Denver Broncos, and especially the Denver Broncos D, is going to have to be on their A game. At least they don't have to worry about a Warren or some creme de la creme, top tier, tight end that can open up a lot of things for an offense. That's going to be the Achilles heel of this defense. Is the defense that Vance Joseph has. I don't think they know how to cover a tight end. I don't think it's either talent or scheme or both, and it's just not working. Like, tight ends that are just even slightly above average eat this defense alive. And you've got 2 of those within this division. You have 2 of those. One for the Raiders and one for Kansas City. Now, Disley, I don't know if I want to put him in that range. He's good. But I would say he's average or slightly below average. On this team, on the Chargers, he's average. But that's also because the Chargers have a top-tier quarterback and 2 or 3 good wide receivers plus a run game, solid offensive line. So that makes it a lot easier to be average, but I wouldn't say he's above average. I definitively would not say that he fits up there with the 2 other tight ends that I'm speaking about that play for the Raiders and the Kansas City Chiefs. The Broncos don't have that either. I'm not trying to, throw shade. The Broncos don't have that either. They don't have that at all. Evan Ingram's is not that. It doesn't seem like he's going to be. We thought he was going to be. And it's week 3. Let's see. Still 16 or so games, 15 or 16 more games to play. Still a lot to be seen. But this team, this Chargers team could really, really test the Denver Broncos defense, man, especially if they look at that Colts game and see what the Colts were able to pull off even against PS2 and see if they can get the Broncos to fall into those same traps. Not that PS2 can't do it, but I think the Denver Broncos are better off with zone coverage than they are with man coverage. Yes, can they do man coverage? Yes. But I think they would be a lot more stifling of a defense if they were playing a little more zone or even zone man. And maybe they have been playing zone man, but man, those crossing patterns, having both Moss and PS2 running sideline to sideline, every other play, man, that's exhausting to any corner. But, them running down the field and switching hips on posts and long patterns, yes, those are exhausting, but they're not half as exhausting as you're running up the field and across the field at the same time and trying to chase a wide receiver, and you're behind, and you've got to also watch out for rubs, and you've got to, you're running through the middle of the field, so you've got to make sure you're not running into the second wide receiver or a tight end, the referee, the umpire that stands over there. You can't, well, maybe the umpire doesn't stand there anymore, but he used to. Okay, I'm old. Cut me some slack. I'm old. The umpire used to stand there. I think he stands behind the offensive line now. But anyway, there's a lot of different objects that a cornerback has to avoid when they're covering a wide receiver running across the middle. You don't have to worry about rubs or running into your own players when you're running backwards behind you and the safety is playing a cover two or playing anything deep. You don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about running into somebody. You just have to worry about watching the quarterback's head, eyes, and movement, and your man. That's it. But the minute you have to run across the field, now you're watching the quarterback, you're watching your man, and you're watching for obstacles that you're having to go around, through, or over to stay with your man. That's why those plays are very effective against cornerbacks that don't play those very well. And PS2 will probably be the first to admit that he probably played a little off his game. Let's just call it that. He played a little off his game. He probably fell asleep a little bit. He got bored. They weren't throwing to him in game one at all. Everybody seems to be afraid to throw it in his general direction, and the Colts were like, no, we're going to throw it right at him. We're going to throw it right at his ass, and let's see, how great this defensive player of the year truly is. And a lot of it was nothing over the top. It's not like they got a whole bunch of big plays or anything like that, but they did get plays on PS2. They got a lot more plays on Riley Moss. You know what I'm saying? The Colts came in with a great game plan. They executed it superbly. They really did. They didn't make a lot of mistakes. Like, I don't even think they turned the ball over. I know Jones didn't have an interception. I can't see any fumbles. So they came in with a good game plan. They played a clean game. They didn't cause any they didn't have any turnovers. They didn't give the Broncos any extra chances at a bite at the apple. They literally stifled the Broncos to have the exact amount of possessions that they had, and the Broncos almost utilized it to a T, but it looks like to me the Colts coaching outdid the Broncos. But now against the Chargers, that's an even better coach. The coach that coaches the Colts, I think this is his first year or second year as a head coach. So this is going to be an even tougher challenge. And I think that Coach Payton, brother, you need to practice a little more patience and humility. I get it. You're one of the best. You're, if not the greatest offensive mind, one of the greatest offensive minds that has ever coached or schemed in this league. But you also, I think you need to take a step back and realize that you need to tailor within what you want to within your team's capabilities. And I think that the Denver Broncos can, especially on the offensive side of the ball, I think that they can thrive a lot better if you start tailoring and curtailing what you want, marry that with what you actually have. I don't know, call me crazy. That just might work. Well, let's check the score since Mark keeps bringing up how bad people are getting beat here. Let me double check these scores real quick. Ooh, the Rams are beating Tennessee 33-19. Yeah, these are some lopsided scores. Hey, Cincinnati's looking like they're alive and well. Who's their quarterback that scored 31 points? Beating Jacksonville 31-27. Let's see. Arizona is up on Carolina 27-22. Dallas almost loses to the Giants. They do win though, 40-37. Dallas has no defense now, man. I'm not saying that they were great with Micah Parsons, but now they have no defense, dude. You let the Giants score 37 points on you, my dog. What the? Ooh, see, they almost killed me. I'm getting there, Mark. I'm getting there. Let's see. Am I on the right week? Am I tripping? Man, I'm on last week. This stupid thing. Oh, Lord have mercy. I'm just over here reading so fast. I didn't even realize that I was reading last week's scores. That's okay, though. Let's see. Now that I'm on the right damn page. Jacksonville versus Houston, 7-3 at halftime. Got Carolina beating Atlanta 17-0. Tampa Bay up 20-6 on the New York Jets. That's no surprise. The Washington Commanders are up on. Yeah, okay. I'm human, Mark. Cut me some slack, okay? Washington Commanders are up 20-10 over the Raiders. So that goes back to my point. Now that puts even more on the implications and the severity of winning this game today for Los Angeles and the Denver Broncos. Because if Los Angeles loses this game to the Commanders, I believe they go to 1-2, and they drop, and then it's just the Broncos and the Chargers sitting out on top of the hill. And the Broncos could take control of the division by just winning today. Take control of the division. Let's see. Los Angeles has beaten Philly, so that's what Mark has been hammering away. Yeah, I was trying to mess with your mind, Mark, to see if you were actually paying attention, sir. So Los Angeles Rams are beating up on Philadelphia. They're in the third quarter with 13 minutes left, and it's 26-7 Los Angeles. Pittsburgh is scraping by with 13 minutes to go in that game. They're up 14-7 on New England. Cincinnati, yeah, I was really tripping. They're getting spanked by Minnesota 34-3. That's ridiculous. That's why I was thrown off a little. I was like, who's their quarterback to score 31 points? That's just my brain. I'm off. I'm human. I make mistakes. I have enough humility to say that I made a mistake, and I'm moving on. Indianapolis could go undefeated in their first 3 weeks of play. They're up on Tennessee 22-6, and they've got 12.5 minutes left in their third quarter. Looks like a snoozer in Cleveland. Green Bay's up 3-0, and they have 8 minutes left in the third. That's either an epically defensive game, or both of these offensive can't score for nothing. I didn't refresh my screen, dog. I just forgot to refresh my screen, people. It happens. I started to notice when I was like, wait a minute, these scores look very familiar. I mean, it happens, man. But that is now that is the rundown of this week. Not last week's scores, but this week. This week, it just looks like it's a whole bunch of lopsided games in the morning, man. Doesn't look like there's any games that are worth watching at all. I agree, Mark. It's just a big snoozer. Looks like update. Philly just scored. And then the Colts just scored again. Everybody was counting the Colts out, including present company, man. I didn't think the Colts were going to be that good. I was starting to count Danny Dimes out. I was a big fan of his when he first was at New York, and he, that dude could put the ball, he could spin it. But, just being in that franchise kind of wore him down a little bit. I don't know. He just lost interest, but boy, is he thriving in Indianapolis right now, man. That is going to be a team to reckon with come playoff time, barring any crazy injuries or, them falling off a cliff. But, man, for the Colts to start off 3-0, which it looks like they're going to, I know he's on your team, sir. I know. I haven't checked my fantasy yet because I'm playing Mark this week. So I haven't checked it yet, but we're gonna see. We're gonna see what's cracking. I know Danny Dimes is playing his butt off right now. I can't even remember who I started at my quarterback. I think it's Baked Potato in Tampa Bay. My quarterback got injured and is out for Cincinnati, so I had to do what I had to do. There wasn't any top-tier quarterbacks on the market. The only other quarterback that I could have gotten was I ain't even going to say his name because I don't like him, and I wasn't going to pick him up, and he plays for Pittsburgh, and right now they're not doing very good anyway. So with Tampa Bay scoring 20 points, I'm just hoping that Baker Mayfield has scored at least 2 touchdowns. I'm not going to check right now because then... Oh, okay, so he's going to put the score in there. It's 64-45 him. That doesn't bode well for me because most of my team is playing in the morning. I only have my defense and kicker that are playing late in the day. So I need my team just to pick up the pace here. Minnesota's got 34 points and Jefferson doesn't have 20. What is going on? What is going on in the world today? I think Mark be fixing points. He be shaving points, dog. I'm just playing. Mark is one of the most admirable and stand-up guys I've ever met in my life. He wouldn't do that. He wouldn't do that. He's not me. I wouldn't do that either. I have morals. I wouldn't do that to anybody. When I win, I win. When I lose, it's fair and square. It's all good. It's just 20 buck. But I've won in our league a couple of times, you know. I'm a 2-time champion. It's not back-to-back, but I'm a 2-time champion. So I'm not mad. I'm not mad at it. I think I'm just bad at drafting. Last year I drafted second to last and still ended in third place. I'm very, very good at dropping players and reading who's going to be good going into the next week. So I was able to finagle my way into the playoffs last year. I lost and, still got like third or fourth place. I can't remember what I got, but I was right there. I was right there, man, and I picked second to last. So hopefully my team can pick up the pace. I won one game. I'm like 1-1 right now. Hopefully I can shut Mark up. My team scores like 20. He got one running back scored 20 points, and that's why he's up right now. Because otherwise we'd be tied. But that's the way fantasy works. So I can't even, can't knock it. That's the way fantasy football works. You get one player that gets 20, 30 points, and then the rest of your team can stink it up and you can still win. Or you can be like my team and just stink it up. I need a quarterback out. I need a quarterback. That's what I need. The rest of my team is okay. No, not really. If I only have 45 right now and most teams are in the third quarter, my team stinks. Back to the drawing board. Sorry, I don't mean to go off on a fantasy tangent here, but I only got about 6 minutes left. But I do want to say, hey, in about 11 days, man, 11 days and a little over 30 days, the NBA and NHL seasons begin. I absolutely am ecstatic to start the NBA season. I cannot wait to see what this Denver Nuggets team is going to do. I'm seeing all of this talk of movement, and all of these people saying that Jokic is going to leave the Denver Nuggets to go play in LA with Luka. Even some Nuggets fans are saying, Luka will finish out his sign bonus or his he just wanted his bag from LA, and then he'll finish out his extension, and then he'll become a free agent, and then he'll come to the Denver Nuggets. And it's like, man, I don't care about none of that. I want to see what my Denver Nuggets are going to do this year and next year. Now, if Jokic doesn't sign an extension going into next year and he does hop on the free agency, then I'll panic. But I do think that the Denver Nuggets, by the end of next year, will get him to sign, and he will sign a max multi-year deal, and he will be a Denver Nugget for life. I do not foresee Luka ever, or Jokic and Luka ever combining. I could be wrong. I hope I am right. I hope I'm right. But I could be wrong that Luka doesn't come to Denver or that Jokic doesn't go to LA, but I'm not going to panic about that until Jokic doesn't sign an extension by the end of this season or going into next season. If Jokic is holding fast and he doesn't sign one, then I'll start to worry that maybe he does want to be on another team. But I think the Denver Nuggets have put some pieces around him. I think the Denver Nuggets did make it clear that they want to win championships and they want to not waste his window, waste his talent like they kind of did with Carmelo Anthony by only, keeping his talent, but also only signing very below or very average role players at that. The reason why the Denver Nuggets won in 2023 was because of the fact that they had good role players, like above average role players. Brucey B was at the top of his game. Christian Brown had just come off of a national championship at Kansas. His pedigree was on point. He came in and just played solid defense and then scored when they needed him to, was a spark off the bench. They had Jeff Green, who was, a journeyman, but had enough experience and was also a lottery pick that, still had enough gas in the tank that could be a role player for this team. The Denver Nuggets organization seems like they have got that. They made that for Jokic. He wanted to see if they were going to do that. They did that. Now I think it's a matter of now can they crunch the numbers and come down to something to where both parties are happy with. But I know Jokic, and I've said this about him a lot. He's not really about the money and all of that. I think Jokic does want to win championships. I don't think he didn't sign his extension because it wasn't enough money. This is just me personally as a fan. I'm speaking on what I think, just knowing his character. I don't think he's worried about signing an extra amount of money or getting a max deal that's better than what he could have gotten this year. I think he wanted to see what the Denver Nuggets organization was going to do now that they've won a championship. Were they going to just ride that championship into the ground until he retires? Or are they going to try to get multiple championships in his tenure? Anything less than 3 championships while Jokic is in his prime is a failure. I will be happy with another ring. I will be happy as a fan. We got 2 rings in Jokic's tenure. Cool. I'll die happy. That's cool. But it's still a failure because this man should have won at least 4. Now, some of that has to do with the injury to Murray. Okay. We have to take into account that when Murray went down, the organization held out a spot to make sure Murray could come back, and rightfully so because he helped the Denver Nuggets win a championship. So, that was the right call. But at this point, winning that championship and winning one more is not going to be, to me, as a fan, a win for the legacy of Jokic. It's just not. He needs at least 2 more to go with those MVPs in order for us to be able to solidify him as the greatest Nugget of all time and possibly one of the greatest of all time. So we'll see. We'll see what the Denver Nuggets do. I'm so excited for NBA basketball this year. Mark, I, and Lucas got to figure out where we're going this year if we can. We got to get some games in this year. We missed last year, all of us had, just a lot going on. But we definitely got to get at least one Nuggets game in this year and an away. And no, Mark, it cannot be at Portland. It needs to be in a destination spot, man, like LA or Miami. I'd even do like Philly or Chicago, man. But Portland's like way down there on the list. Or Golden State. We could do San Francisco, something like that.
OKC.
No, I've already seen them at OKC.
I'm messing.
Yeah, I mean, I've already seen them at OKC, so that's not nothing new. But that would be actually a good game to see away at OKC and then see here too. But anyway, speaking of away, we have to go away now. That does it for our show. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube and all of your social media. On behalf of everybody on the show that helps support this show, man, we appreciate you greatly. Keep passing along the word. Keep telling everybody, tune in. Things are only going to get better from here. We're going to grow. Next Sunday will be our last Sunday show, and then we will move on to Thursday starting October 2nd. I meant to say that early in the show, but I want to make sure that it's said. So stay tuned for that. We'll have 2 shows next week, and then we will go to the Thursday format at 7 p.m. It's a better spot for us anyways. We're going to prime time now in the middle of the week. It's going to be good. So you guys tune in, like and subscribe, and we will see you next week at noon next week. Same channel. Holla at your boy. See you later, Sports Fiends. Peace.